And there we have it. Welcome into a special live edition of Casey Sports tonight.
It's always live.
I guess that's true.
Remote. We're always live.
Remote. That's true. That is a good point. And we're already bickering. We just started the show here at the K.
This
the
is
place
not,
to
if
be.
you think this is bickering, wait till you're married.
Oh,
this
okay,
is
that's
not
fair.
bickering. It's just discussing. And by the way, I brought all this television gear out.
Yeah.
What? Okay, I know what a clip.
I brought the essentials. We can go through them.
What is this?
This is a mini hairbrush that's broken.
A mini hairbrush.
That's probably now also broken. And a lip gloss. The big three
I could use
for.
that.
Yeah, that's not your color. All right, we are at the place to be in Kansas City right now, which is, of course, the beautiful Kauffman Stadium. Neal, okay, Royals sweep Baltimore. They're moving on now to the ALDS. How are you feeling about this team?
I'm still kind of surprised they survived and made it into the playoffs at all. I felt like their inability to score runs, and they had just... Nobody was hitting. Nobody was hitting for extra bases. The things they did to get them to this point, which was hitting with men in scoring position, they stopped doing that. Their starting pitching stayed good. It was like, I'm not sure I think they're choking. I'm not sure they're going to make it. And they made it. And as the owner said last winter, we just want to get in the tournament.
Yeah.
And we all kind of went, yeah, okay, fine, that's great. Well, you know what? He was right. They are in the tournament. They send the Orioles home. The Orioles look like a team. They were a pretty good team this season, but they looked like a team that had no idea what they were doing. The Royals look like the pros. When they got guys in scoring position was not very often. They found a way to get them home, and they win. They win without home runs, but they got it done.
Yeah, I mean, they backed into the wild card spot. They went on 2 7-game losing streaks in September, and it came down to the final week. They went from a 95% chance to a 59% chance in the final week, but we were just saying, just get in. Once you get in, it's anybody's ball game. Literally, you go on the road, you sweep Baltimore. Now you're facing a New York team. The first 2 games are going to be on the road. And then, Neal, we got postseason baseball here in Kansas City. I mean, I want to start with this. A year ago, we're standing here, probably talking about the Chiefs, wallowing about 106 loss season.
The worst season in Royals history.
Yeah, tied for the most losses ever.
An owner, we didn't know what he was doing. A manager, we didn't know if he could manage. A GM who we had known, J.J. Piccolo, we knew him in a different role, personnel guy, and we hoped he did well. But there were all these question marks about, does the owner know what he's doing? Does the manager know what he's doing? Does the GM know what he's doing? Do the players know what they're doing? And here we are 12 months later. It's unbelievable.
I think people got kind of tired of hearing it's an evaluation year, it's a rebuilding year. People got tired of that pretty easily, especially because we'd been going on a decade of this, right? I mean, there have been 300 lost seasons since 2015. Haven't had a winning season since that year. I mean, for it to be Bobby Witt Jr., too, in both of those games, batting in the eventual game-winning RBIs, I mean, I don't think we can really wrap our heads around right now what we're seeing in terms of Bobby Witt Jr.'s, like, MLB historical excellence.
I don't know that I'm going to go there yet.
He's the only shortstop with 2 30-home run seasons and or 30 home run and 30 stolen base seasons. I mean, historical numbers at least.
And he does it in a year where a pitcher hits 50 and steals 50 or whatever it was, 40 or 50. But I guess what I'm saying is that before I anoint him the best ever, I think that we want to see what he can do. He hasn't played a real long time, but look what he's done with guys behind him in the lineup.
Yeah.
Sal Perez is a really good player, but he is not Aaron Judge. He is not. Look at when you have a superstar lineup that you spend hundreds of millions of dollars on, like they do in New York and Los Angeles and Houston, some of these other markets. You've got all this protection. He did this with Vinny Pasquantino behind him and Sal Perez behind him. And while we love them here, I don't think either of them are seen as all-star type players. Although Vinny's 97 RBIs, and had he not got hurt, it would have been well over 100. That is really, really special. His ability to drive in runs, Salvi's ability to drive in runs, kind of helped out the shortstop get better at bats. But so I just would like to see more. I think he had an absolutely unbelievable season. He leads the league in hitting, but he shows pop. And he was great playing shortstop. People didn't think they weren't sure he was a shortstop. He answered those critics. He clearly is one of the best shortstops defensively around, and he is a superstar. There's no question about it.
And you mentioned Vinny. Kudos to the first baseman. I mean, about 5 weeks ago, he was given a 6 to 8 week return. A lot of people were saying his season was over. I remember his press conference where he's like, look, this may not be realistic, but I don't think my season's over. And the 6 to 8 week timeline would have put him well into probably the World Series of playing again. So I thought, okay, well, maybe if the Royals make a deep run, we can see Vinny again. He's back for the first wild card game. I just think that speaks to, one, his toughness to undergo thumb surgery and beat the conservative end of the return by a week.
Yeah, he, as you know, anybody who's ever interviewed him or been around him, he is one of the nicest people. When the stadium vote went down, the team was on the road. They came back, they had not played great, and I went up and I asked him, you know, hey, what's it like to be home, and how'd you play, and what do you think about this team? You're learning more. It was real early in the year, in April. And then I said, look, I turned the camera off. I go, look, I'm just going to ask you about the stadium vote if you don't mind, but I understand you may not want to vote. Answer. And he goes, absolutely, ask me. And when we got done, he goes, hey, look, don't ever be afraid to ask me something.
Oh, that's cool.
If I know anything about it, I'll give you my honest opinion. And if I don't, I'll just tell you I don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
And he's a stand-up guy, and he's been great. But part of what I'm waiting to see what happens is the Yankees are the one team I was hoping the Royals would avoid. I understood there were people who said we'd rather play Baltimore than play Houston,
Yeah.
but sitting there with the Yankees, the Royals have not won a series. Now, this is only going to be 2 games, okay,
Yeah.
in New York. But they have not won a series at Yankee Stadium since, I think, 2013 or 14.
Yeah.
They didn't do it in 15. The year that they were so good, dominated the world, and won the world championship. That team didn't take a series at Yankee Stadium. This has sort of been Superman's kryptonite, but we all have to remember teams are different. This is a different Royals team now, pitching-wise, than they were at the start of the year because they solidified their bullpen. You haven't seen them blowing games at the end of games very much. Now, they haven't scored runs, and that's a problem. And the Yankees are going to be a more disciplined, more dangerous hitting team than Baltimore was. But this is a little different team. And I got news for you. If the starting pitching remains like it has, and they give up 1 or 2 runs to the Yankees through 5, 6, 7 innings, the Royals are going to be in games. And that's all you can ask when you're taking on a team like the Yankees.
You talk about the Yankee matchup. I think it's worth noting on a more micro scale over this last year. I mean, the Yankees won 3 out of 4 here at Kauffman Stadium in June. Kansas City went to Yankee Stadium in September. They lost 2 out of 3. So,
and those games were important games. And
yeah,
the Royals knew it.
But at this point, I mean, I think the Royals are playing some of their best baseball. Defensively, they're playing incredibly. I mean, you look at MJ Melendez's big play yesterday. Michael Massey had an incredible performance. The bats aren't as hot as I think you'd like them to be right now, but they're just finding ways to win, and that's what gets you deep into October.
Who played in the World Series for the National League last year? It wasn't the Dodgers, who won like 111 games and dominated and beat the Arizona Diamondbacks by like 14 or 15 games in the division race. It wasn't the Dodgers. It's not about the season. Once you're this time of year,
0-0.
it's like March Madness.
Yeah.
It's who's hot at the right time, who's healthy at the right time, who gets going. And I think we saw the Royals go toe-to-toe with as good a pitcher as they will see in the postseason when they went into Baltimore and beat the Orioles ace. That the only chance the Orioles had was to win that game. That was their best chance because that was the one pitching matchup that really stood out as, okay, they're going to have the benefit. Yeah, the Royals have a good guy, the left-hander, but the Orioles have one of the best pitchers in the entire game. And what happened? Royals stuck with him, pushed a run across off of one base hit, and then they move him around, and then it was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
A walk, they move him over, and then a base hit by Bobby Witt Jr. to drive him in. That's how they won Game 1. And so the Yankees have to respect the Royals pitching. They have to respect the way this baseball team is playing. If they do not respect it, if they come in thinking we're going to do to them in the postseason like we did in the regular season, then they could be in for a very rude awakening.
Yeah, I want to zoom out a little bit because the last time we were covering postseason baseball in Kansas City,
You were 4.
I
You were 4.
was just born. No, I was in college, so I was watching from afar with in Wyoming in my freshman dorm. I'll never
Gambling
forget.
on the game.
Gambling? No, I was not gambling. I hope Wyoming Compliance isn't watching this. But I was with, I'll never forget this. We had like kind of this common area in our dorm, and so it was me, it was a football player who I think went to Lee Summit West, and then it was a volleyball player who went to Olathe North, and all 3 of us were the Kansas City kids at Wyoming, and we said, hey, do you want to meet up and watch the game? And I'll never forget that because it was at the beginning of my freshman year, so it was kind of a fun, like, you're homesick, and it's a way to feel closer to home, getting together with a couple people you kind of know who are from the area and watching your team play postseason baseball. Neal, I'm curious your thoughts on just kind of the importance of postseason baseball coming back here to the K after a pretty frustrating couple of years.
Well, think about what we went through with the Royals this last offseason. All this talk, almost all the talk about the team, almost all of it was kind of about the stadium issue and the ownership and what is he trying to sell to us and why does he want to vote? He's pushing a vote in April. We don't even know where the stadium's going to be. And they sign their superstar, Bobby Witt Jr., a guy that they hope would be their superstar of the future. They have signed him to this mega deal, but they do it Super Bowl week.
Yeah.
It's like everything they did was wrong. It makes you think, like, what are they doing? Why are they pushing for a vote when they haven't even decided where they want to go? And the owner's going out and meeting with people, and people are coming away saying, I don't trust the guy. It was negative. And then this baseball team goes to spring training, and they do their thing, and they are better than we expected, and they just continue to play well, and they continue to play well. Whenever we counted them out, they kept playing. I think it really is, it's like a movie.
Yeah.
Because this isn't a beloved owner like Ewing Kauffman and a group of kids we watch come all up together. How many of these pitchers did we follow other than Brady Singer? We didn't, because they came from other organizations. The guys that we thought were going to be superstars, that draft class that was going to be the pitchers of the future, Brady Singer's the one guy left. The rest of them are gone. So this is kind of modern baseball. You plug and play. We need a middle innings guy. Let's go get one that we really believe. And look, the Royals and their scouts and their GM, JJ Piccolo, did a great job of finding guys who could play, and they did it not on a bargain, but they had to live within a budget. They can't spend their way out of mistakes like the Dodgers and people like that do, and it makes what they've done even more special, and it makes the whole narrative of the vote and the saying no to the team, we're not going to give you a new stadium because we don't trust you. And here we are now looking at this team taking on the Yankees with a chance to go to the ALCS. Pretty unbelievable.
Yeah, I think it's cool, being a Kansas City native myself. Neal, I know you've been here for a super long time.
Longer than you've been born.
Yeah, longer than I've been born. How long have you been in Kansas City for?
Since 1992.
Yeah, that's longer than I've been born. Yeah. Anyway, having been around here for a long time, it's special because everyone in 2014 and 2015 knows where they were when they were watching games. And I think there are a few things like baseball that bring people together. I've already heard so many people, just coming up to me and talking about watching the 2014 game with their dad. And, their dad passed away in the meantime. And now I get to watch it with my son. I mean,
I got a story better than that.
Yeah.
A local reporter went out and did a story with a family, and the mother gave birth during the night of the wild card game.
Awesome.
And it was a really good story.
Thank you.
Why don't you do? Oh, you did
wait
that.
A minute.
You did that story.
Yeah.
This is I think it's the best story you've ever done. And
Really?
if you haven't
Thank
seen
you.
it, you need to pay attention. We'll run it again this weekend, wouldn't you think, or tomorrow maybe?
Hopefully, yeah. Thank you. It was the nutshell is a family. Heather Spear, I hope they're watching this. We're watching the game, and she's such a big fan that she said she was jumping up and down. She was 9 months pregnant, and she made it through the game. Went to bed as soon as she did. Her water broke, and she had her baby boy, who they ended up naming Brecken Hosmer Spear after, of course, Eric Hosmer himself. So pretty cool story. And now that kid is a diehard baseball fan. He plays first base. He wears number 35, and he is so excited to watch this year's team. I mean, he's passing the torch to the next generation now.
He is a better speaker on television than either of us.
100%.
The little 10-year-old.
Yeah.
He was fabulous.
Yeah.
Great story. We need to run it again on Channel 5. I know I think it ran yesterday. Is that right?
Yeah.
But we need to run it again on Channel 5. And can you run it on KCTV5.com?
It's on KCTV5.com.
Then
now.
go online
so
and you can do it. It's really special.
Thanks.
But how many kids, how many people who have not grown up with winning baseball are getting it, and they're getting it in spades, because it's not just, we won this year, but we didn't make the playoffs. They won a playoff series, and that does guarantee them at least one baseball game here at Kauffman Stadium. Pretty exciting.
And these kids are very used to good football here in Kansas City now. They know nothing but Chiefs Super Bowls. Big news before we kind of wrap up the show. Got a couple more minutes here. Rashee Rice landing on the injured reserve list today. Maybe not the biggest surprise in the world, but it's been a weird week in terms of, So a lot of times those diagnoses come pretty quick. This hasn't.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, oh gosh, he's hurt. But we knew he was hurt. And the IRR is 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, so after 4 weeks, they can reevaluate him and reinstate him to the roster. He's going to be ready in 4 weeks. But there's a chance if the ACL, the main ligament that holds your lower knee and it holds your knee together, it's like a rubber band. If that's not ripped in half, if it's not torn, he doesn't have to have surgery, and presumably. Now he might have damaged ligaments, cartilage. He could have there's 2 other ligaments that could be in your knee. So there's other things that could be at work here, and his knee remains very swollen. So there's no doubt that he hurt it, but there still remains a chance that maybe they can rehab him and he can come back and play this year. It's a chance.
Yeah.
It's not a probability, but as I told Jared, and I think you and I have talked about it, I tore both ACLs. I've had 5 knee operations. I had 1 rebuilt. The other one, my left knee, I didn't have rebuilt because it stabilized. And I mean, I heard it, but I could bend it. And I'm like, this is weird. The other knees, when I've hurt my right knee the 2 times by sports, I couldn't bend it. And they go, every knee's different.
Yeah.
And it stabilized, and I was able to go on and play sports. So you don't know exactly what's going to happen with him long term, but the fact that he hasn't been put on the PUP list, which is physically unable to play, whether you take him off the roster, I think this is actually it's not a bad sign.
I was a little jarred when I saw, oh my gosh, they put him on the IR. And then you think about it, like you said, and I'm like, well, I didn't expect him to come back in the next month anyway. So after that, we'll see. Again, hopefully it's not season ending, but he'll be eligible for the November 10th game against Denver, right over there at Arrowhead Stadium. So, I mean, we'll see.
And lost in the shuffle here is the fact that the Chiefs are playing the Saints. The Saints and the Chiefs do not have a rivalry. The Saints, this is not a game we all sat and looked at. Oh my gosh! Then the Saints are coming in, and with Derek
marching
Carr, and they got to.
That.
Well, guess what?
Come marching in.
That's good.
You missed it.
The Saints have outscored the Chiefs this season, not even close.
Yeah.
Their offense on paper and on the football field is better than the Chiefs. They put some huge numbers up on people, including on the Dallas Cowboys. And so they come in here, and you talk to Andy Reid, and you talk to those guys out there, and they're like, no, this is a good football team. They got weapons. And you could argue that they've got better weapons on offense now. They got a running back, Alvin Kamara, who can play, he can catch the ball out of the backfield, he can run. They got wide receivers who can make plays. And they got a Derek Carr who is burning to beat who? The Chiefs. He could never beat them very much with the Raiders. He's going to get a chance to beat them with his new team, the Saints. This is a scary game, and in some ways a trap game, because it's like, whoo, we went on the road and won 2 close games. We're undefeated. We're in good shape. No, not necessarily.
Yeah, and you're under the primetime Monday Night Lights. It's just so shocking to me that we're going to have Monday Night Football over there, postseason baseball over here 2 days later. Just an exciting time. One more storyline I want to hit that would have been bigger news today, I think, if we didn't have the Rasheed Rice news and everything going on with the Royals. Clyde Edwards-Helaire back at practice today. This comes at a time, he had him as the first 4 weeks as he was on the non-football injury list. He's technically, they opened up his 21-day window, so he could, quote unquote, take the field on Monday. Is Clyde Edwards-Helaire your starting back? No, but does this come at a time where Isaiah Pacheco is still out for the next, presumably, 4 to 6 weeks? Yes. Do you think, if not this week, over the next month until we see Pacheco return, Clyde could get back heavily into the rotation like we saw him last year?
If he's effective. If he comes in, we didn't see him much in training camp. As you know, he was there some of the time, but he didn't run the football very much. If he's effective in practice and looks good, and Andy Reid sees that, then I think he gets in the mix. But I think Andy Reid is hoping that they have found something with Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt looked a lot more alive than I thought he was going to be.
Yep.
You know, he didn't look like a 29-year-old running back. He had a little bit of a burst, which you got to have at that position. He added something. I think his first carry was for like 9 yards.
9 yards, yep.
And so I think they're going to give him an opportunity. You asked me earlier today, what about Carson Steele?
Yeah.
Look, you cannot fumble and play for Andy Reid. And
2 out of 3 of his first 2 games, or first 3 games.
Andy Reid's going to say all the right things. Look, we still believe in him. He said that about guys in the past. He believed in him, but then they never played again.
Yeah.
So he might bring him in for pass blocking purposes. He might throw the football to him a little bit, but I'm not sure that right now they cannot afford to turn the football over. That's one thing we all agree on. This is a great football team, but what will beat them and what beat them last year, time after time, penalties and turnovers. They can't afford it. They can't afford it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think as you mentioned, the proof will be in the pudding in terms of, I'll be interested to see the box score snap count after the game is over. We have a very busy week coming up. Royals starting on Saturday on the road, 5:38 Kansas City time. Royals.
We got to talk. I think.
Oh, another big game you want to mention?
Well, no, but I think we've got to talk about. We haven't brought it up specifically, and the stupidity of baseball. The Royals playing on Monday evening instead of Sunday. They could have played. They wanted They wanted to stay away from NFL Sunday, so they scheduled this not knowing who was going to be in the game. But putting the Royals and Yankees head to head with Monday Night Football, where unless you have one of those televisions that has about 10 boxes on it, which we do, fortunately, where you have picture within picture, fans are going to have to make a decision. You're not going to be able. How are you going to watch this? Which would you watch? What would you watch? You can't say, "Oh, I'd watch both," and I'd switch back and forth.
I was going to say, well, I have this really cool rectangle where I can actually pull up the game on my phone.
What about young? Yeah, but if this was you when you were little,
sure.
What would your family do? Your mom and dad and you?
You know, I think we ran into this when I'm trying to remember these situations have obviously happened, and we'd have the laptop on one and the TV on the other. I think in the Arrowhead parking lot on Monday night, you're going to see a lot of TVs up and fans gathered around that. I think they're going to take shots of the crowd, and you're going to see phones if they intersect. But hey, if our biggest problem right now is the Chiefs playing undefeated Chiefs playing in prime time at the same time as the Royals in the postseason, I'll take it.
But it's a little bit like having two kids, and you got to decide: are we going to go see Marleah play basketball or her older sister who is curing cancer? Which do we want to do? Her older sister, who's doing really important stuff, or Marleah, who's boxing out against really bad players in a bad league, the WAC, I guess. Mountain West. I'm sorry, but seriously, it's going to. It's the only negative. It's the only negative.
The only silver lining there is that. If that was the Wednesday game here, it would be a logistical parking nightmare.
They've done it one time.
Have they? Yeah, I was going to wonder, did they build in that contingency? Probably not.
It was like a noon kick, and it was a night game.
Yeah, well, fortunately, we don't have to worry about that problem. But for now, that'll do it for us here on KC Sports Tonight. A lot more to come on a very busy weekend. Thanks so much for watching.